So the second path that we can take, and before I talk about experiential path, it is not exclusive, or both of these paths are not mutually exclusive, right? It is not that you think that I'm only going to take the experience or intellect path, not the experience path. You can take both. In fact, I would recommend that you take, when you reach your goal, you indulge in both the paths, or both the spectrum, experiential as well as intellect, because if you do so, that will help you move forward. That will really help you move forward in the direction that you want to get into, and that will help you answer some of the questions that you might have. That will also help you in most of those scenarios where you find yourself stuck. At times, it we just align to one extreme is something that causes the problem in us. So same thing you saw in the intellectual path. What are some of the things you can do? The company of highly informed people, wise people, spiritual people can really help you. And this company that I'm talking about, in the last slide, when we were talking about intellect, we were talking about information. So one is that you get information from those people. But the other thing that you get, maybe not tangible, right, is experience, the feelings, the motivation. You just feel different in company of such people, highly evolved people, right? You don't have to talk to those people to always get something. They don't have to give you entire encyclopedia to make you understand something. At times we don't have to communicate with our family members. Our feeling, we just hold hands or hug and everything is gone, or everything is communicated. That is what I'm talking about when you talk about highly wise people, spiritual people, people carrying wisdom. Just sheer company of them can make a lot of difference. That is why it is so underrated in our society, that we only think of information, getting information from a person. Information is only one aspect, that is very small, tangible aspect. And information will be something that your mind is gonna do quite a lot of, basically. I mean, basically the information that you receive, your mind is going to process that information, and eventually you may not even be able to use that information. Based on that processing of your mind, you might find that, oh, this is not easy, this is not, it's for easy for him to say or her to say, it's not easy to do, one has to be in my shoe to understand that. All of that will come. So I'm not talking about information, it is only one aspect. Experience is even the bigger aspect of being with such people. When you come in a group, and unfortunately we are not able to meet personally now like we used to, and I really like the bonding that we all had. I'm not saying we don't have that, but you just feel different by just being in that room. When you in room of in that room of people filled with positivity, or at least having good intention for people, you feel that. And yet everyone is struggling. We should all be getting negative feeling from each other, because we all each other are struggling. Yet we receive positivity, because everyone, the underlying intention or vibration is to help people out. And that's what we get, not what we try to give. You might try to look happy. If you're not happy, it will come out. Maybe not to the person who's only seeing superficial level, at superficial level, your face. But someone who's reading your feeling can easily tell. So company of experienced spiritual people, wise people is really, really important in order to get that experience as well. And it is something that you can't describe in word. No language can do justice to describe all the feeling, the kind of different feelings or emotions that we go through. No matter how rich our vocabulary is or our language is with all the terminologies, all the nouns, adjectives, I don't think we can still do a good justice to defining the feeling the right way. The other thing that can be done on experiential path is meditation. Take meditation as an inward journey to know who you are. So now you would say, but you just said some time ago, all of this can be implemented for even gaining some other thing, not just materialistic thing, some materialistic goals as well, something that we want to achieve in our life. And I said, yes, I would still say meditation is something which an inward journey can still help you in achieving those. Because when you meditate, when you go deeper, go inside you get closer to yourself. And when you get closer to yourself, you just not only experience different things, but you come out with new information that you never thought existed. You know yourself better, you know your weaknesses, your strengths better, you know your surroundings better, you know those people who you should be considering as kids or baby who don't understand the value of you being a diamond necklace better. Or you motivate yourself to still keep walking. It is really, really important when people on experiential path that we keep meditating and building a good practice. Meditating, okay, I just want to address one more thing. Um, so when we say meditation, what happens is there's so much misinformation out there in the world. We have come up with, I don't know, a billion, zillion, gazillion types of meditation practices like yoga. And we have lost the main crux of it, right? It's kind of the same thing. If you watch a movie, you will describe it your way. If you ask someone else, the person will describe that person's way, his or her way. If you ask 10 different people, they will describe their own way because that is how they looked at it. But is that the actual thing? And when you see the movie, you probably would get something else. And same thing is with all the information being surrounded in our world where we talk about yoga, meditation, and all that, where I see a lot of misinformation is there. We do things without understanding why we do things, like meditation or like yoga. Nowadays, we are doing yoga for strengthening our body, that's it, not even realizing why it is done. We just add some weight to our yoga portion and say it's a power yoga. How different it is from any other exercise, physical activity like say Pilates or Zumba or something else, right? So how would we get those benefits when we don't really understand why we are doing or what we are trying to do? Meditation, that is why people are not able to make inroads because for them it is at times, and again, I'm just categorizing, simplifying here. It may not be uh, covering all of different aspects or perspective of different people who struggle. But some people think, okay, you close your eyes, you just try to concentrate. That's it. I'm doing different meditation I didn't get at many places, or I don't know any different now, even though I've been meditating for many years or whatever it is. Uh, I feel if we know meditation good enough, and if we stick to the basic of what the meditation really is, we should be able to see the difference. As simple as we realizing more, maybe within first 100 hours of meditation, every 100 hours you do, you'll see things differently. But then for that to happen, we have to have our basics correct. One of the things we lack at when we do meditation is we keep thinking, even though we meditate, right? We may be focusing on breath or chanting or focusing on an object or sound or whatever. But if our mind is still working, how are we learning to control? And I'm not saying we have to stop our mind, but we have to understand we are developing a particular thing here, which is called concentration. And that is something that can happen with repetitions. Wherever a thought comes, we really don't have to entertain that thought, but bring our mind attention to the same thing that we are focusing on. So focus should be the only point of concentration. That's it. Whether you focus on a sound, on an object, or a thought, or a breathing, or a particular point in your body, or a smell, something that you're getting, or particular feeling like breeze you're getting, you're feeling cold or whatever, just stick to that. As simple as that. And no matter what, you, of course thoughts will come. That's the function of mind. That's the function of brain. Mind will give you thoughts. That is what it does. It uses all the senses that we have, processes the information, and then sends out the information to our information center, right? And we act on that information by all the processing of that information. So mind is not going to stop working all of a sudden or instantly or at all. But what you can do is you can improve your concentration by keep focusing on things that you're focusing on. And when you improve on your concentration, you will be able to notice quite a lot, because our senses at physical level are limited right now. We can't see beyond certain lumens. We can only see within certain range. Similarly, we can only hear within certain range of decibels. We only can feel certain feelings. We can't feel everything else. We every I have to ask you, describe different feelings that you feel on your body, right? You probably will be able to say cold, warm, hot, um, freezing, or whatever. Maybe give you 5 or 10 different expressions. That's it. And warm can be air can be warm, water can be warm, but the feeling for that would be different. When you feel water on the skin, it is different versus when you feel air on the skin. Without getting too deep in that, what I'm trying to say is our senses are limited. And when we learn to concentrate more by focusing on concentration on an object or a particular thing, that's when we start to see the real benefit of meditation. If we keep sitting for meditation in the right posture, if we keep doing things, but then we are thinking, we definitely will get somewhere, but you'll not be able to see the meaningful progress, because you are not able to get deeper inside you. You're not able to penetrate those physical senses that you currently have. Then how will you be able to hear more, see more? Because you are still using those senses. And we have to go deeper to start using our inner senses. So I would say on meditation, it's really effective. It's really good. but just focus on improving your concentration, nothing else. Don't focus on stopping your thoughts. Don't focus on whether you're getting results or not. You just see, and like I said, every 100 hours you would see things differently. The experience path, other thing that can help is devotion. Devotion can be taken as worship. It can be taken as um, blind faith. Some people even consider um, um, blind trust or faith, or even uh, following different kind of rituals as a part of devotion, right? um, that is something I don't mean by devotion here. For me, devotion is developing a trust so that you develop that ability to let go of things, let go of your worry. You make that connection with something, someone, whatever you want to call, whether it is with a person, whether it is with a profession, whether it is with that Almighty. When you are devoted to your job, you will give your best. When you are devoted to a person, you will give your best. When you are devoted to a God or Almighty, you will give your best. Giving the best means you don't worry about things. You keep focusing on the actions, but also developing the ability to let go rather. Let go of all the worries. You just focus on giving, giving, giving rather than receiving. If you are able to create devotion in you, you will really see the value of having the devotion, because this is something that can help. The thing that we were talking about when we were talking about intellectual path is, when you're stuck, thing like devotion can help you. Letting go of the paradoxes of mind, the confusion in mind of mind, or reasoning that mind is giving you, or making you remember all those negative things that have happened in your life in the past, or making you feel like you don't mean anything, you don't deserve anything. Letting all go. If you have that ability to let go, just wonder how light you would feel. And it is an experience to experience, I would say. It is something that can make a lot of difference in how one feels. One can be blissful in the same world that we stay in, and one can be completely shattered, broken, mentally unhealthy, crying, ruminating in the same world. It all depends on how we see it. So for experience to grow, I would also advise that you generate or create devotion, or find something that you can be devoted to, and and build that ability to let go. Have that much trust. Whether that trust comes with you comforting yourself by saying that nothing will go wrong, or you develop that trust by saying, let me not worry about it right now, let me just move forward. That's it. I'm not going to think of the outcome, I'm not going to think of what's going to happen. I'm just going to keep trying. That's it. And we all have to find that sweet spot with ourselves to create that devotion, what works for us. For some people it is easy to create that devotion, that trust. For some people it is not, because they are far more logical. There's so much that tells them differently. There are people who keeps constantly telling them, oh, you don't deserve this, you're not good enough, or you lack this or you lack that. Or there are people who would read different things and tell you wrong things because they themselves did not understand the right information. If someone reading wrong information, okay, again, going to the same example of watching a movie. Some person watches a movie and did not like the movie. The person is gonna explain to people that person is going to meet about the movie that the movie is bad. And you will think the movie is bad, even without watching the movie. It's no different from what we encounter every day in our life, people saying something does not work or we are not good enough. So we have to understand that everything we hear is a perception from where that person was seeing it. And each person's perception can be different. That is why this saying, if you dig deeper, that is what it means when people say, beauty lies in beholder's eyes. It is not the picture that is beautiful, it is someone who's looking at it makes it beautiful. From where you see it, you can find anything beautiful, by the way. The same thing that others may not find beautiful. Isn't that happen with something that happens with like clothing or jewelry or thing like that? Like there would be some new piece of garment that probably would sell for like, I don't know, if people bid for it, it'll be like $1,000 or something, more than $1,000 or whatever, a million or whatever. And if you look at it, you would say, I can't believe someone spent $1 million on it. It's not something that it is not some that something worth million or not. It is worth it. What is the worth for you, which is what matters. So similarly, when someone says, when you are surrounded by people who keep saying you don't deserve, they don't see, they can't see. They are that monkey or that baby who does not appreciate or who do not appreciate the value of that diamond necklace. But don't discard everyone saying such things because they might be also telling the right thing. And that is why it is important for us to do introspection. That is why I said introspection, churn, brainstorming is so important. And ability to discern from logic or logical to from illogical or from fallacies or paradoxes is so important. That's what comes with experience as well. Or making mistakes, going wrong, doing something repeatedly and realizing, oh, this something will not work. So from devotion, let's move to other aspect of yoga that we didn't cover. So we did look at Raja Yoga previously on intellectual path, on experiential path also. The practices that many of you would have heard of, like Kundalini Yoga, right? Serpent thing, the pranayamas or Hatha Yoga and things like that. They all are deviation from, or they all are basically subsets of Raja Yoga, which is combination of the three forms of yoga: Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, basically. Um, Before I go to Raja Yoga, I'm going to talk about the other forms of yoga or other things that can be done. And when I say yoga, please don't be confined by, oh, I'm talking about a particular uh, way of thinking, or I'm kind of promoting something from my country or some particular religion or particular community or yeah, or culture. We all have to look beyond those superficial things rather than looking at the label or the cover of the book. We have to see what is actually in the crux. If someone has done those studies thousands of years ago, Either we can reinvent the wheel, try to find out on our own, or learn from someone else's who has already walked that path. And that is why I'm referring to yoga, basically. I could have uh, packaged this information differently without using these terms, right? Because everything is can be said differently, looked at it different perspective from different perspective. But I am using these terms because this package or the way of packaging this information yoga will help you find information quite a lot easier. If I say selfless service, you will try to find selfless service and you'll find scattered information. But if I say karma yoga, find about karma yoga, you'll find actual books written on karma yoga, what it actually means, what actually selfless service means. Because otherwise, if I say selfless service, you'll probably find 1,000 different narration or perspective of thousand different people, and they may not all be qualified enough to give you that perspective. I mean, they can give what they think, but what it actually is, someone who is wise or understand completely can give you much better. So I would say find out about karma yoga, which is selfless service. You and this yoga does not deal with any postures or any mudras or anything like that. It is just doing selfless service. Karma means to work, basically work selflessly for others. Many people who we consider saints or something, like Mother Teresa, and again they could be different information from different people. I'm just giving normal example. uh, People have achieved quite a lot by being selfless. You might say, oh, I can be selfless, but people don't appreciate me. I'll again take you back to the same thing I was saying. Why are you tying yourself with your outcome? Are you or are we trying to say that if I help 100 people, all 100 should appreciate me? They should have the same mind, they should have the same feeling, they should have the same response. How different it is from expecting that each one will be same, and when we know that everyone is different, then are we wrong or are they wrong? Aren't we wrong in understanding or expecting everyone to be same? So when you talk about yoga, karma yoga, which is selfless service, I would highly recommend that indulge in that. That is something that can help gain the experience as well. You learn quite a lot when you become selfless. You gain more when you are in company of people who appreciate that. If you are a person who needs that constant gratification, you need that feedback, you need to find better people in that case. But if you can develop a firewall or a defense, raise your defense in such a way that you don't get affected by not not getting appreciation for the work you do, you will see the real benefit of self-service as well. But not only to people that you think are important, because that's what we do. We do for our families, even though we later see those very family members act differently, right? um, we become partial in doing our selfless service. The selfless service I'm talking about, and that is what I mean, you if you find information about it, you'll get different variation of it. The selfless service I mean is without any partiality, what I'm referring to. So that is why I will advise that you read about karma yoga. You will definitely get to know what kind of selfless service it is talking about. And when you see do actually that selfless service, that's when you will see the benefit of it. If you do only a flavor of it, how can you get the whole benefit? As simple as that. Bhakti yoga, which is worship, another form of worship. You can do Mantras, you can do mantras with your worship, you can do with your meditations. They are rituals, they are different things. People talk about some occult powers or things like that, black magic, whatever. I don't want to go deeper in that, but that all that can be used basically, and all of that are experience based. You experience things differently. You do get to interact with um, different forms, and you would come out with different experience and different information once you do so. So bhakti yoga can actually help uh, make you take forward on your experiential journey. Raja yoga, like I said, kundalini yoga, pranayama, hatha yoga, all that can definitely help you a lot when you are on the path of experience, when you think experience is the way for you to find information, and when you are able to quieten your mind by saying, okay, let me just try it out. Okay, I know I can't read a book for days together, but I am okay going out in the field.